Hey guys, Jimmy from WhichWay here. Welcome to Punch the Controller episode 3. I am your host, Jimmy. We just got done finished watching UFC Fight Night Tybura versus Spivac 2. It was a rematch. I made my picks last week for this card. I believe I made... let me see here. I made 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I believe I made 5 picks. Now, when I was watching this card, I didn't realize that there were updates to the card in terms of there being injured fighters. So that kind of threw off my picks. That kind of made me get 1 out of 5 picks, I believe. So we'll quickly go through them for my picks that I did. Yusuf Zalal versus Jono Aarons. I picked Zalal, so I got that one right. Zalal won by submission. Good on him. I kind of missed the fight because I didn't get up early enough, so my bad. Now the next fight was supposed to be Urosh Medic versus Danny Barlow. That got cancelled. So then Danny Barlow then faced Nicolay. I think they'd say. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name because look at that shit. That's just no way. I actually didn't write any notes down for this fight because I wasn't as interested. I didn't know any of them. But so Uros Medic didn't fight. Shame. The next fight we had was Chris Gutierrez versus Javid Basharat. That fight also got cancelled. Javid was injured or sick, not too sure, couldn't quite remember. So now it was Chris Gutierrez versus Quang Li. I did watch that fight and I did have notes as well. But my next pick as well was Damon Jackson. Yeah, it was Damon Jackson versus Chepe Mariscal. I got that one correct as Chepe won by decision. Good on him. And my last pick was Tybura versus Spivac. I picked Tybura and I lost so fast. So we will discuss that as well. But first up on the list, we actually didn't pick anyone for this fight because it wasn't necessarily on my radar. I don't even know if it was on the... I think I didn't pick anyone because I didn't know any of the guys. But it was a bantamweight match and I should have picked someone, so... anyway. So this was, again, I'm going to pull their names up. This was Toshiomi versus Toshiomi Kazama versus Shara Lampos, Gregorio. I'm not going to say that name again. First up, I really enjoyed this fight. I have no idea who any of the fighters are. I've never even heard of them. They must be fairly new to the UFC at least. But the first round, we got a bit of a possible illegal knee for those who watched the fight. It was in a clinch, I believe, something like that, up against the cage. And Kazama decided to do a knee to the face, I believe, when his opponent was grounded. They stopped the match to take time just to review it. It was a bit of a... what do you want to call it? They weren't quite sure. They had to review it a few times. They had to replay the knee a few times to see if the hand was on the ground or not. But it was one of those situations where it was pretty close for it to go either way, I guess. But in the end, I can't remember. I think it was ruled legal. I think that's kind of why the fight decided to go on, I guess. But yeah. I saw a lot of grappling out of Kazama against, I gotta say his first name at least, because I mean, come on, otherwise people don't know who I'm talking about. Charalampos. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Charalampos. Yeah, I had not seen Kazama fight before. I think he started off right at the gate, started grappling against Charalampos. So, yeah, that was interesting. The grappling then kind of turned into a lot of control time for Kazama. I believe it was 4 minutes control time on the ground for him. So I think he actually won the first round due to a lot of the control time. I could be wrong. But yeah, that was round 1. Round 2, we get a knockdown for Gregorian. No, I'm going to say his first name, Charalampos. So it was kind of 1-1 kind of at the moment, I guess. And I believe Charalampos came out with a flying knee also in round 2 as well. Very hectic start to round 2. So, and then I believe they get into an exchange of grappling, clinch. They get on the ground. You would think Charalampos was winning because of the knockdown that he got. But it actually turns out that the tables had turned. The script had flipped. Kazama ended up winning. He came back with a triangle choke, I believe, and he won the fight. So that's pretty impressive. A great display of flipping the script, if you will. But yeah, it was a good fight. This fight is kind of why. This fight and the next fight I'm going to talk about are great examples of why I love the bantamweight division. A lot of interesting action, and also the tables turning. It was kind of back and forth between Kazama and Charalampos. So yeah, it was a great fight in my opinion. Kazama was coming off of 2 previous losses, so he definitely needed this win. I'm not too sure if he was on the Contender Series or not. But yeah, definitely needed the win. And yeah, I might watch some previous fights from them, or I might watch future fights. I'll definitely be tuning in to when they fight next. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. So the next fight, we have another bantamweight banger. As I said before, we have Chris Gutierrez versus Kwang Lee. I had Chris going into this one. I didn't know much about Kwang Lee. I hope I'm saying that right. Kwang Lee. I'll just say Lee from now on, out of respect. Lee was undefeated going into this, and Chris was pretty much the vet going into this. So Chris had more experience in the UFC at least. To start the round off, I think Lee had great pressure. He was going forward toward Gutierrez, and I think it was a bit surprising the amount of pressure he was putting on him. But I think one thing, if you don't know who Chris Gutierrez is, he's fought a lot of great fighters. Excuse me. He has fought a lot of high-level strikers, high-level competition. Oh, goddamn. Excuse me. Chris, I think there has not been a fight where Chris hasn't destroyed his opponent's leg or hasn't thrown a deadly leg kick. Chris in this fight threw so many hard hitting leg kicks. he was chopping at the leg. He was just mincing that leg. You could see it. You could even hear it in the apex. But yeah, Chris is one of my favorite kickers for sure. He chops those legs down like you wouldn't believe. I think it was during round 1 and 2. I think also a bit of 3. Lee was constantly throwing his 1-2, just constantly throwing 1-2 down the middle, trying to find that combo. And I also think to counteract that 1-2, I think Lee was having a bit of trouble finding his range. So, the more times he threw his 1-2 down the middle, I think Chris was evading a lot, and yeah, Lee just couldn't find the range at all. He did have some success, just not all the time though. Back to Chris's leg kicks. He was throwing his leg kicks with bad intentions. I think during the later rounds of the fight, you could see that Lee was struggling. He was limping ever so slightly, I believe. It looked like that to me anyway, so... but yeah, I think Lee also threw a few leg kicks, just obviously not as well-intentioned or great as Chris did. So, yeah. Also, I think, when was it? It was in round... No, I think because, Lee finished the fight off on Chris's back. So Lee got Chris's back, I believe, on the cage or not. I can't remember. It was a little bit worrisome because I'm not too sure how many submissions Lee has had in the past. I'll definitely have to look that up. But I think... I can't remember who won round 3. I've got to go back to the judges' scorecards, but Lee could have possibly won round 3 due to being on Chris's back. I'll go back and double check. But yeah, it was a great fight as well, and I don't think Chris called anyone out. I will tune into most Chris's fights, because again, he's just in banger after banger. At least in my opinion anyway. So, we'll see what's in the future for Chris. I wonder how old he is. I'm not too sure how long he has left. Maybe he's young. Not too sure. But Lee is undefeated. So he's definitely he made his debut as well, I'm pretty sure. So we'll see what's next for him. And I believe... Like I said, I enjoyed the fight. I enjoyed both fighters' performances. I think Lee did well, and I think he has good stuff on the horizon for him. So, we'll see what's down the line next for him. So the next fight we have up, we've got Damon Jackson versus Chepe Mariscal. I wasn't looking forward to this fight too much. It's a featherweight fight. I don't know. I've seen Damon Jackson fight quite a few times. One of my favorite fighters, Dan Ige, knocked him out, so that was sweet. So I got nothing against Damon Jackson, but I had Chepe Mariscal in this one. This round 1 started off quite fast-paced as well. Jackson went to... I don't know what Jackson went for, but Mariscal, Chepe... I'm not too familiar with judo, but I believe he did one of those judo twist throws things, where you throw your opponent kind of over you, kind of backwards. So that was pretty cool to see. And I believe because it was such a fast-paced beginning and fight, Damon was throwing quite a few knees to Chepe as well. I believe it was in the first 30 seconds. So yeah, they were swinging. They were swinging the knees. They were swinging. One thing I noticed too from Chepe, was that when he did throw Damon in the first round, he kept doing it and kept reversing Damon in those small exchanges, those small grappling exchanges. So Chepe was definitely doing well there. I think Damon, I believe it was Paul Felder that said that Damon had a background in wrestling. I think that's true because I think Damon is a wrestler, I believe. Although he does have striking, but I think he mainly does wrestling, I believe. So, and Damon, I think Damon is known for getting his submissions as well, I believe. So, yeah, round one was entertaining. I enjoyed it a lot. There was going back to the wrestling and stuff. There was a lot of clinch work from both fighters. I haven't seen too many of Chepe's fights, so I can't say if he has wrestled a lot. But I might have to go back and see what Chepe has done. But yeah, Chepe did a great job winning against Damon Jackson. I think at this point, Damon Jackson is also a vet in the UFC. I want to say Chepe is fairly new to the UFC. I could be wrong, though. I'm just trying to think. No, I'll have to go back and look. But yeah, it was quite a dominant performance from Chepe, and wish nothing best for both fighters. I'm sure they'll find some new good opponents in the future, and yeah. So next up, last but not least, we have Tybura versus Spivac 2. Not much to note about this fight. It was quite one and done. I did have in my notes before the fight started, I wrote quick fight, no doubt, and I was quite right. Although I was not expecting a submission from Spivac. I should have done a little bit more research in terms of these guys, maybe because I just wasn't a big fan of them, but maybe next time when it comes to a more serious fight, I'll do my research, as I usually do, but I didn't really care for this fight. No, it didn't really jump out at me, so, but yeah. Spivac got the finish, got a sub, I believe it was an armbar, so that was pretty nice. And yeah, it was one of those fights where it just was not going the distance. I think both fighters do a lot of wrestling as well. I know Tybura's had a few knockouts, I think. Same with Spivac, but yeah, definitely have to see. They're both ranked. It was it 8 and 9? I think they were 8 and 9. I think. But yeah, Spivac surprised me a lot. So. And during the post-fight interview, Spivac doesn't care who he fights next, necessarily. All he cares about is fighting anyone ranked above him. And I believe I saw a post a few hours after the fights. Jailton Almeida, how do you say his name? Jailton Almeida? I don't know, dude. But Jailton wants that fight next with Spivac, so yeah, could be made, could be not. We'll see. I believe that is it for Fight Night. I did not see. It's a shame those fights got cancelled because I mean I was really looking for it. If you want to get technical about it, I got one. Well, no. I didn't get Chris right, so did I say I got that right? I think I did, but I was wrong. So I had Javid for that fight when it got cancelled. It's a shame. Hopefully they run it back. Yusuf Zalal. I'll have to see Zalal's post-fight interview as well. I'm not too sure if he called out anyone. But imagine if him and Topuria run it back. That'd be interesting. So. And I saw a few comments saying, stupid comments, saying that Zalal gave Topuria the hardest time. I'm not too sure how true that is. I believe it could be. I'm pretty sure it was Topuria's debut in the UFC. Could be wrong. the fight was a while ago, and I believe it was on Fight Island or in the Apex. It was one of those. But yeah, I think that fight went the distance as well, if I'm not too mistaken. But yeah, Topuria ran through Alex Volkanovski. I will say it didn't necessarily run through Emmett, but he got the job done. Very dominant performance. And yeah, we'll see how he goes against Max Holloway. So, yeah. So, I forgot to mention at the start of this podcast, I think it being episode 3, it's not that I don't have a lot to talk about, because I do. It's I think it'll be a more laid-back, casual podcast this time around, this episode. I do have a lot of gaming-related news that I do want to talk about. So for next podcast, 305, we've got to watch that. So we'll have plenty to talk about. So there'll be no... what's the word I'm looking for? There'll be, yeah, like I said, there'll be lots to talk about, and no delay of any talk. Yeah. So next, I wanted to talk about the segment, probably one of my favorite segments of the podcast, what I'm currently playing. Let's put that away, shall we? So, last episode, I believe I spoke to you guys about Valorant dropping on console. I have been playing a few games, and I'm liking it a lot. It's different, but I am liking it. There seems to be a learning curve. To me, it's pretty much I described it to Jackson as it's like search and destroy with abilities. You plant the bomb, you defuse the bomb, and although they're very similar game modes in different games, COD is obviously faster than Valorant, and Valorant's more slower. So I think that's kind of what I'm learning. I'm learning the positions, the characters, the abilities. I believe I got a free hero agent token when I jumped on for the first time, I believe. So I spent that on Reyna, I believe her name is. So I'm kind of trying out Reyna at the moment. And I think, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it was a bit stupid, because now all the heroes are available to me. For some reason, I don't know why they weren't when I first downloaded the game. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Maybe I wasted the token. Who knows? Maybe I didn't. But yeah, I will be streaming that game possibly next week. I'm recording this on the Sunday, a few hours after the fights. So... yeah, I think I should stream some Valorant this week when I'm not streaming the Callisto Protocol. So yeah, look out for those streams if you guys do enjoy Valorant, enjoy watching it, or enjoy playing it. Next game I haven't played, but I would like to play is newly released. I believe it's in alpha state at the moment. Delta Force Hawk Ops. I've seen a lot of gameplay from this. I'm mostly interested in the extraction mode. When it comes to extraction shooters, I want more of them. I'm very deeply invested into them. I think part of why I loved the Division 1, and a lot of people did too, it was the dark zone when it was actually dark. I think that was one of my favorite things to play in the Division, and I'm kind of, it's pretty much, you ask someone why they like an extraction shooter, and they'll tell you that it's the thrill of getting a lot of loot, carrying a lot of loot from a dead enemy, dead body, and having to extract that within a certain time limit with other players surrounding you on a map. It's definitely the thrill of the experience. That's why I think a lot of people were let down by DMZ. I personally was. I thought it was going to be something more than it was. But I stopped playing DMZ a while ago. I started playing it recently, actually, but I stopped playing it recently again as well because I was reading, I was seeing, things about there being hackers and cheaters and stuff like that in DMZ and exploits and weapon one-shot weapons and stuff like that. So I think that kind of deterred me, unfortunately. I would still love to play it. And I think also the fact that being a solo in DMZ is pretty hard if you're not good at the game. So that would be me. So I wish I could get good at the game, but I also wish there was a solo queue as well for the game. I think that would get me back into it as well. I think, they did it for Apex as well, and I think I played a few games of that as well. With the I think it was a limited time event or something like that. But yeah, so apparently Delta Force will be heading to console. I'm not too sure when. I hope it comes soon because I would love to play it straight away. It looks pretty cool. But yeah, I've seen a few YouTubers stream and play that, and it's kind of what I've been watching. I've kind of gotten away from DMZ at the moment, and just been watching a lot of Delta Force. So I'll mostly be playing Delta Force for the extraction mode. But yeah, I hope they release it soon. I'll have to look up when the date. I've looked up a few times when it comes out, but it's coming to console. But hopefully by the end of this year, that would be great. That'd be a great addition to my channel, I think. And again, there is no solo queue, I believe. That would be nice if there was solo queue, but I've seen no solo queue for now. I'm sure they will add it eventually. But yeah. So moving on, speaking of extraction shooters, Marathon is a game that I've been looking forward to for a very long time. I watched the Viadoc. I'm not too sure if there was a part 1 or 2 or just one Viadoc. But I watched that a long time ago, and it was talking about the concept art, what the game's going to be like, how it's going to play with other players and stuff like that, just the development of it. As of recently, according to articles and a podcast, Marathon does not look like it doesn't look like it's in a great state at the moment, which kind of let me down a bit. I mean, according to one of the developers or something like that, in studio executive or something like that. But yeah, he said it was not in a good state, and he compared it to being like the Suicide Squad, which for anyone who has seen or played it, I personally haven't played it myself, but if people know, that's pretty bad. So we don't like the sound of that. And also let me know, guys, if you're interested in Marathon as well. Let me know if you're looking forward to it or not. It is an extraction looter shooter, or just extraction game, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, ever since I watched the Viadoc, I've been looking forward to it. Everything sounded great from it and still sounds great from it. I'm very hopeful about it. I believe the timeline for it releasing is next year. That's what I've seen a few articles and things say like that. But yeah, I'd love to hear something from them by the end of the year. Possibly at the Game Awards or something like that. early next year even. But yeah, I'm looking very forward to that, and I hope we get some good news of it. And yeah, I think that's about it. Still looking forward to it. But yeah, rambling on about marathon. Anyway, next up, we will go for our 305, our UFC 305 picks. This one's going to be quite exciting. I'm going to be watching this event live with, I believe, Jackson, and I believe maybe a few other friends. Who knows? But guys, if you are a fan of the UFC, you do not want to miss this. If I had the money and if I had the tickets, I'm going to say that again. If I had the money, I would buy the tickets for this, but I believe they are quite pricey. I do plan to go to a UFC event one day, hopefully in my country, but this time it is in Perth, so I would need to fly over there. Fun fact, I've never flown on a plane before, so that's going to be an experience and a half for me. So yeah, I cannot wait for this. It is next week, so tune in, guys, and also let me know your picks after I do mine. I think we're going to start, I believe, at the that's not right, is it? Yeah. Yes, that's correct. So I am starting off with the early prelims. I just saw Jack Jenkins versus Gavin Tucker cancelled, but then I remembered Jack does have another opponent in Herbert Burns. So that would be Gilbert Burns' brother. Jack Jenkins. I love me some Jack Jenkins. I've got Jack easily for this one. Jack had an unfortunate... now that I'm looking at it, Jack had a very unfortunate fight with Chepe Mariscal, who fought today. It was, I guess considered a TKO, but Jack injured his arm. Yeah, I think he injured his arm. I can't remember exactly how the fight went, but yeah, hopefully Jack will come back much stronger and better than he did in that fight. Although I can't remember, it was a round 2 TKO KO, so I can't remember how round 1 went. But yeah, Chepe got lucky. No, he didn't. But anyway, yeah. So moving on. Our next fight, we're going to do a picks for. We will do. I'm not very interested in this fight by any means, but we'll do Song Kanan versus Rick Glenn. Rick Glenn, I believe, fought Drew Dober last. Or did he fight someone else in the meantime? Yeah, so he fought Drew Dober. Drew Dober absolutely destroyed him. Song Kanan, we shall see. Who did Song fight? Kevin Drusay Kevin Drusay out of City Kickboxing, along with Izzy and Kai and those guys. There are cats fighting outside of my room. Don't mind me. I'm just making sure they don't kill each other. I think... Well, this one's tricky. They've pretty much both got the same records, apart from two wins. Man. I want to go Song. I don't see why not. I can't remember if Song rocked Ian Machado Gary. I think he hit him with something. But yeah, I'll go Song. Why not? Now, this next fight, looking very forward to. Tom Nolan is my boy. He is my boy. Very proud of him for getting the W last fight. He is going up against Alex Reyes. Alex I'm not too familiar with at all. He's a bit of an older boy, that's for sure. 13-4. Lost against Charlie Campbell last fight, and also lost to Mike Perry now that I'm seeing. 18, 19, 20, 21. So it was about 6 years apart that he fought Mike Perry and Charlie Campbell. So that's interesting. So, yeah, more of a vet than Tom. Tom's just new to the UFC, so Tom just had his second fight in the UFC, I believe. So this will be his third. I believe Tom will make everyone proud. And yeah, I'm rooting for Tom all the way. Let's go. Let's go, big train. All right, next fight. Next fight on the prelims, we've got... so I just read that I've read it wrong. So Jack Jenkins' fight against Herbert Burns has actually moved up to the prelims, so pick still stays. Next fight, we have an absolute banger. Josh Coolabau versus Ricardo Ramos. Man. I do have Josh. Josh is slowly is becoming a real fan favorite for sure. I think definitely I'm becoming a fan as well. I do want to see Josh's last fight. I think it was a loss by decision. Yeah, so he lost against Danny Silva. I think it was a close fight. I could be lying. Could be lying through my teeth. I'm going to be biased towards most of our Aussie guys, I guess, but I just believe that they are somewhat better. I know some of our Aussie boys will lose. I mean, because it's always the way. But yeah, I've got Josh in this one. I kind of have to be biased now. We've got Junior Tafa versus Walter Walker. Who is this guy again? He is he's someone's brother, right? If I type in... I actually don't know if it is Johnny Walker's brother. Okay, so it is Johnny Walker. So Johnny Walker and Walter Walker are brothers, I guess. I almost went to say Walter White. But yeah, I've got Junior in this one, although Junior lost his last fight, I believe. Yeah. We'll see how this one goes. Walter has only one loss. I don't know if he's been in the UFC. Let's find out. So, yeah, he has been in the UFC. He lost against Brzeski. And we'll see Junior. What have we got? Obviously, he lost against Lima. Destroyed Parker Porter. I've still got Junior, man. Yeah, Junior gets it done. Round 1 or 2 knockout. Moving on to the main card, if I can see it. If it's going to let me. It's fine if it doesn't. Moving on to the big main card. First up. When I stop yawning. First up, we have Li Jingliang versus Carlos Prates. They both have 19 wins. And it looks like so far... Oh, I know who this is. Carlos is. Okay, yes. Yes. Okay. I might have to... I mean... Carlos hasn't lost in a very long time. Man. I might have to go Carlos. He looked good against... I didn't watch the Charlie Radke fight, but I did watch the Trevin Giles fight. And Trevin Giles. And yeah, he looks ridiculous. So I've got Carlos in that one. Possibly by knockout as well. We'll see how we go. Next up, we got Ty, the boy, Tuivasa. The boy is not his nickname. I just said the boy. Versus Jairzinho Rosenstruck. When it comes to Biggie Boy, he's a bit of a hit or miss. I just want to pull up his record first. Yeah, he is a bit of a hit or miss fighter. Loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. So it's, you never know with him. Ty lost his last fight. Sad tears. In fact, now that I'm looking at it, Ty has lost his last 4. So it's Ty needs a win, or I think it's not looking good. Ty has been in the UFC since 2017, so that's almost 8 years, just over 7 years, I believe. Jairzinho could get it done. I mean, they both could get it done, but I mean, man, I'm gonna have to see some workouts from these boys. I want to see what Ty's been working on, but for some reason I'm leaning more towards Biggie Boy. I hope Ty wins, but my official pick, I think Ty needs to land those shots. I think he needs to land accurate shots. This is hard. I'm gonna go Ty. I'll do it. I'll go Ty. I might lose that pick. Hopefully not, though. But yeah, that was a hard one. Next up, we've got a lightweight banger. We've got Mateusz Gamrot versus Dan Hooker. I love me some Dan Hooker. Gamrot, I'm not entirely a huge fan of. Nothing against the guy, except for when he fought. Excuse me. I believe the Rafael Fiziev fight, I think Fiziev would have won that if he did not get injured. Again, I could be biased towards Fiziev. But yeah, Gamrot has won his last 3. His last one being Rafael dos Anjos. Won that by decision. If we go to Dan the Hangman Hooker, that's still Gamrot? No. Dan the Hangman Hooker. Dan has only won his last 2. He hasn't fought for a while. I think it'll be just over a year. Yeah, just over a year, his last fight. He won against Jalen Turner by split decision. That was a great fight as well. If you haven't checked that fight out, please do. Dan's a vet of the sport. If you don't know who he is, check him out. He is a vet out of City Kickboxing. Fights alongside Izzy and the rest of them boys. Dan, to me, I like Dan. He is a bit of a hit or miss though. I think Dan really needs to show something new. I think could get out grappled by Gamrot. I know Gamrot likes to grapple. Man, I really want to go Dan, but I feel like it's pretty good if I pick Gamrot as well. I'm going to go Gamrot for this one. There you go. I didn't pick an Aussie boy, even though Dan's not Aussie, but, you know, he's ANZ, so Anzac, so I'm gonna stick with Gamrot this one. I feel more confident in Gamrot. Even though Dan is very durable, as we saw from his last fight against Jalen Turner. Man, this one's a tough one as well. I'm gonna go Gamrot. Final decision. I'm going Gamrot. If you don't like it, go away. Alright. Oh my god, am I looking forward to this fight. We have Kai Kara France versus Steve Erceg. Astro Boy. Man, I've been looking forward to this fight for a very long time. In fact, I think it's my favorite fight on this card. I think it's my first favorite fight, and then my second's gonna have to be the main event. But this one first. Flyweights, not my favorite weight class by any means. Even though I did say I like the lower weight classes in my previous podcast, bantamweight, then featherweight. Man, Kai is a vet of the sport for sure. He's pretty much on par in terms of vetness, experience with as Dan Hooker is. Have we got 4 City Kickboxing boys, or is it just the 3? Yeah, I think it's just 3. I think it's Dan, Kai, and Izzy. So this one, I think this could possibly be fight of the night. I'm hoping it's fight of the year. And I think it's 3 rounds as well. It's not saying otherwise. But I swear to God, I hope they change it to 5 rounds. I also kind of don't think they will, because I think 3 rounds gives them enough time to make it a barn burner. Kai lost his last fight. Was it against Amir, which was quite a while ago as well. I think Kai won his last fight. I don't think Amir won. Anytime, and then he lost against Brandon Moreno. And if you don't like Brandon Moreno, there's something wrong with you. Everyone loves him. He's a great guy. I think anytime Kai fights Brandon, it's always a banger. I think they should fight again as many times as possible. Steve only has one loss in the UFC. He has 2 losses on his record, but he only has 1 loss in the UFC, I believe. Yeah. Steve is quite new to the UFC. Only started in 2023, and it was a late notice fight against David Dvorak. I have never seen. I think they gave Steve Usyk the I don't know what you want to call it, the Alex Pereira treatment, we'll say. Shot his way up to, only had a few fights in the UFC, and then shot straight to the title against Pantoja. So I've got Steve for this one. Both guys could easily knock each other out. I've seen Kai training a bit recently, coming up for this fight. I have not seen Steve Usyk, so hopefully we see something in the coming days. I'm sure we will. We've still got their countdown to watch, I believe. Hopefully, should be in a few days' time. This could go either way, man. They're both so good. Steve's boxing is just crisp. It is so nice. The knockout that he got against Matt Schnell was just, it was so good. I'm gonna kind of judge a book by its cover here. When you look at Steve, you don't think of much. You don't look. He looks like a flyweight dude. He doesn't have a ton of muscle. In my eyes, he doesn't have a lot of, but he's just, he looks like an average guy when you see him, but he is a monster. So I hope Steve wins. I really don't want either guy to lose, because I really like both guys. And I love the way Kai fights. So, man, I'm leaning towards Steve for this one, unless I see something that changes. But yeah, I'm leaning Steve. Steve gets the job done, probably by decision or knockout. I think it'll be a knockout in either round 1 or 2, or I think decision for Steve. So yeah, there's that pick. On to the main event, the big one. This fight has been in the works for a long time. Blockades have stopped this fight from happening. DDP got injured, a foot injury, something like that. But now the time has come. Who do you guys think I'm gonna go? Who? I I I don't mind Drickus. I'm watching a lot of his interviews and stuff lately as well. If you're wondering why I'm yawning, I just worked out. I worked out before doing the podcast, so I'm a little bit tired. Um. Anyway, I like Izzy a lot. Do I like him recently? I don't know. I watch a lot of his stuff. I watch a lot of his content on his channel, his YouTube channel and stuff like that. So yeah, I like him a lot. There is only one loss separating them. DDP Drickus is on 2. Excuse me. Izzy is on 3. Excuse me. And then only 3 wins separating them. I think Dracus, I think he needs to work on his gas tank. I hope he has done that. When he fights someone like Bronson or Robert Whittaker or Darren Till even, you can see he has physically gassed. But then he somehow comes back. So I think that's pretty impressive. Hopefully he can work on that. Hopefully he has improved that. I think he'll need it against Izzy. Izzy I think, has a lot of cardio as well. I think Izzy has one of the best cardios. I'm not too sure these days, but in previous fights he has had extreme cases of good cardio, especially against Alex Pereira. Although I don't know, I'll have to, even though I've seen those fights many, many times, Izzy kind of looks gassed sometimes. I don't know if he is though. Against Sean Strickland, he might have seemed gassed a little bit. Maybe when he got knocked down. I'm not too sure. I'm leaning towards Dracus for this one. I think I've picked Izzy way too many times. I definitely picked Izzy at the wrong time when Alex beat him. I picked Izzy to beat Alex, and Alex won. So that was a bit of a letdown, but happy for Alex. I think DDP, I'm going to be one of those people. I think Dracus did beat Sean Strickland. I see a lot of people think that Sean Strickland won. I don't think that's the case necessarily. I think Dracus brings it on to Izzy. I think Izzy only has a few more chances. I'm not going to say chances. I think Izzy has a few more fights left in him. 3 or 4 maybe less. He is getting to that stage where he has been on top of the game for a long time, has been an extremely dominant champion. But I think it's Dracus' turn to become a more well-known champion in the fans' eyes. I think Dracus gets it done. It's 5 rounds, so my only concern with Dracus is his gas tank compared to Izzy's. I think Izzy will have more of a gas tank. And I definitely think Izzy will be more trickier than Dracus. Izzy has more of a flashy style compared to Dracus. And I think Dracus is well-rounded, but I think he has a great... he's a good brawler from what I've seen, especially in the Robert Whittaker fight and Sean Strickland fight, so... I'm picking Dracus for this one. I'm starting to like him a lot more. And I like this bad blood, this feud, if you will, between the two. You got the South African, got the African, so... yeah, man, it's going to be a huge event. I wish I could see this in person live at Perth. But yeah, looking forward to it. Those are my picks for 305. Let me know who you guys have got down below in the comments. And yeah, I think that'll end it for this episode. Not much of a fight to discuss, but we discussed it anyway. Next week cannot disappoint. I think it's always a banger when it's in my country, especially it being so close. I wish it was in Melbourne. I'd go to it instantly, but got to fly to Perth, so it's a bit of a. I think money is mostly the issue. I wish I had the money for it, but yeah. Nonetheless, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it with Jackson, maybe a few other mates. We'll see how we go. But yeah. Anyway, that is Punch the Controller episode 3. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you like what you saw. And yeah, we'll see you for the next episode I make. Peace.